Hi, everybody. I'm an Al-Anon from West Blockton, Alabama, and my name's BoT. And I'm full. Tell you what, sometimes being the luncheon speaker ain't all it's cracked up to be. It's my job to keep you all awake now. But if it gets to where you need to nod off, you just nod off. That'll be all right. That'll be okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me up here and letting me be part of the party. Because, see, that's what Shirley and I have come to realize that these are. September 4th, 1982, I was introduced to this way of life at a party in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And for y'all that don't know exactly where Tuscaloosa, Alabama is, that's a college town. It's where there's a university there called the University of Alabama. They play football. They play women's fast-pitch softball. They just won their way into the World Series last night. Yeah. But anyhow, that was September the 4th. That was our introduction to this way of life, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that party. But if you're new here, and maybe this is your first or second one or something like that, I hope before you leave here that you get the feeling that you have been at a party. Because you see, that's what we're doing this weekend. We're celebrating recovery. That's the reason we're having this. It's for each one of us to get together with each other and share our stories. And we got speakers, and you're going to hear speakers from this podium. But, you know, the real stories are told in the hospitality room and at the Al-Anon luncheon. There's lots of different stories being told. So I'm glad that you invited me up here and let me be a part of this. I got a wife at home that couldn't come with me this weekend because she still got a job. If I can keep Shirley sober till July the 29th, she'll have 29 years of continuous sobriety. Yeah. So all of you Al-Anons know that getting that close to her birthday, I won't be getting much sleep from now through July the 29th. It's just my job. But Shirley sends her love. A bunch of y'all out there know Shirley, and she sends her love. Got a 110-pound black lab named Spook, and we're looking for an Al-Dog group. So she needs it. And she sends her love. So I'm just glad to be here. I'm really enjoying myself. There's another couple of other thank yous that I need to get done, and then I'm going to try to get about 4 hours of talk in here before my time's up. Got a lot I need to say. Life's good. If you're sitting in this room today and you're a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, from the very bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. And I don't think we in Al-Anon are doing that enough lately. We've gotten away from doing that. We've gotten away from remembering where we came from. And, you know, it's used to, when I got here in 1982, we told Al-Anon, AA, real regularly, how much we appreciated them. But we're just not doing that enough today, so every opportunity I get, I'm saying thank you to Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you for 2 reasons. Yeah, give them. Thank you pretty much for 2 reasons. I want to thank you, number 1, for being there 29 years ago when Shirley reached out her hand. Because you see, the bottle had her, and I couldn't do anything about it. I was driving myself crazy trying to find a way to get her sober and keep her sober. And, of course, you know I never did find that. I couldn't find that button. But July 29th, 82, when she reached her hand out, the hand of AA was there for her. And you took her in and you put your arms around her and you loved her back to health. And she didn't have to die from a fatal disease that we didn't even know she had. How can I ever repay the debt of gratitude that I feel to Alcoholics Anonymous? Because you see, she was dying. We know that today. And because of AA and the members in the program, she didn't have to die. I want to thank you, AA, for knowing from the very beginning that this thing called alcoholism is a family disease. Now, you see, I know that you knew from the very beginning because I'm one of those Al-Anons that's fortunate enough to have been raised by old-time sponsors in the textbook Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's there in that book in the 8th and 9th chapters that I learned that you knew that it was a family disease from the very beginning, and you included the family from the very beginning. And if you've been taught the history of AA, like I've been fortunate enough to have been taught, then you know that the very first meetings were family meetings. The very first meetings when AA was born were fashioned after the Oxford group meetings. And see, the Oxford group didn't have a church. They met in people's homes. And that's how AA started. The whole family, of course, they'd separate when they got to the house, but the whole family was going together. Maybe the first time they'd been going somewhere together in a long, long time. Yeah. So I thank you for including us in this thing from the very beginning. And I thank you for having this 12-step program ready. So that in 1951, when Al-Anon was born, and we asked you, could we have these 12 steps? You threw your arms open to us. And you said, come on in here. And here's what we want you to do, family member. We want you to take these 12 spiritual principles, learn how to implement them in your life on a daily basis, and learn how to live happy, joyous, and free, and to not be dependent on what another person does or does not do. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous. When I introduced myself today, I introduced myself as an Al-Anon, and I need to talk about that for a little while. Because, see, when I got here Labor Day weekend 1982, I thought being married to Shirley made me an Al-Anon. What I've learned is that being married to Shirley qualified me for Al-Anon. It didn't make me an Al-Anon, and there's several things that I do in my life today on a real regular basis that entitles me to stand up here and tell you that I'm a member of Al-Anon. And I'm going to share 2 or 3 of those with you, mainly because I need to be reminded, but then, too, there might be a newcomer here that needs to hear about these things. The first thing I do today in order to tell you I'm a member of Al-Anon is I suit up and show up and occupy that chair right there in the middle of an Al-Anon meeting on a real, regular basis. Now, I know that this is a program of action. I know you can't get it by osmosis because I tried. The first 7 months that I was around this thing, not in it, but around it, I was suiting up and showing up on a real regular basis, sitting next to those winners that were there for me, rubbing up against them, trying to get their recovery. I did that for 7 months till I finally realized how sick I was, and I found out that I was going to have to participate in my own recovery. See, I know today this is a program of action, but I still believe today that it begins by suiting up and showing up and occupying that chair. Let me explain it to you this way. I can take that chair and I can take it back on the back of my property down there in West Blockton, Alabama, and I can set it down in the middle of a chicken coop, and I can occupy that chair in the middle of that chicken coop every day for 20 years. And guess what? I still won't be a chicken. That's right. But listen to this. But if I do that every day for 20 years, at the end of that time, I'm going to know a whole lot about chickens. You hear what I'm saying? It begins by suiting up and showing up and being in that room with those winners that were there for me, listening to them, learning from them, finding out the actions that I was going to have to take. So even though it is a program of action, it begins by suiting up and showing up and occupying that chair on a real regular basis. The next thing that I'd share with you that I do, and remember I'm just telling you what's worked for BoT, is that I had to have a home group. Now, my home group is the Wednesday night discussion group in Bessemer, Alabama. We call it the Harmony Group. Because if you show up on a good Wednesday night, when nobody's having a whole lot of problems, you just might find a little harmony there. But when I got here, 1982, I didn't need a home group. You see, when I got here, I didn't need Al-Anon. I'm one of those that got here well. There was nothing wrong with me. And I was living in that delusional life. Because you see, I had a big smile on my face. My wife had been in the treatment center for 38 days and she was sober. And I looked at you with a big smile on my face and I said, if she don't drink, we're going to be okay. And you see, the sad part about it was I believed that. I believed it. But that treatment center that she was in up there for 38 days, they had something up there called Family Week. And it's where they asked me and 2 teenage kids, Mike was 15 at that time, Sissy was 13. They asked us to come up and move in up there and stay in that treatment center for 5 days and be a part of something called Family Week. Now, they call it Family Week, I call it Hell Week. Because that's what it was. But there's some things that happened up there during Hell Week that made a lasting impression on me. And the first thing I heard up there in Hell Week that made an impression on me was I heard one of those counselors up there make this statement. He said, the ones that stay sober when they get out of here are the ones that go to AA. And in the snap of your fingers, my job in life changed. And I became the driver. Yeah. Because see, I've already told you. I was convinced if she didn't drink, we were going to be okay. He just told me if she went to AA, she wouldn't drink. So I became the driver. Yeah. And then right before I left Hell Week up there, I heard one of them say it's a good idea to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And we did. Now, if you're an Al-Anon, you understand that. But I wasn't going for me. You know, I had a job to do. Yeah, I had a job to do. And my job was to make sure she was at her meetings. And so we're all around Hueytown and Birmingham and that area down there. We were going to those 90 meetings in 90 days. And we're sitting right down there on the front row. And that speaker say something important, I'd pop her with that elbow. I was listening real close. Because, see, I wanted to be sure I could help her. And I knew that she was still in a fog and she was going to have questions when we got home. I needed to be able to answer them. Yeah. And as we're going to these 90 meetings in 90 days, I learned something about you AAs. I've learned that y'all have got real serious tunnel vision about some areas of your program. And one of the areas you got real serious tunnel vision about is something called closed meetings. Because the night came that we showed up at Bessemer, which was 7 months later, was to become my home group. And they met me at the door and said, Bo, this is a closed meeting. You can't come into this meeting tonight. It's for alcoholics only. And I said, well, wait a minute, you don't understand. And they kind of laughed like you. They said, yeah, we do understand. Said, it's time for you to let us have Shirley, and there's a meeting going on over in that room that you need to go to. And they not so gently nudged me toward the Al-Anon room. Now, I didn't have old-time sponsorship at that time, okay? 7 months later, when I got old-time sponsorship, the first thing Jim and Fran told me was that I would show up 30 minutes early for every meeting I went to, prepared to stay until it was over. And they told me that most AA and Al-Anon members meetings are over in an hour, but not all of them are. And that my job is to show up 30 minutes early, prepared to stay until it's over. Even today, there's still many, many nights, especially on weekends, that we'll still be we have our own building there in Bessemer, and we'll still be there at 11:30, 12, making another pot of coffee, because we got newcomers or we got somebody that's going through some pain, and it ain't over. We stay till it's done, see. Now, let me tell you the part about showing up early. This is what's cool. If you show up 30 minutes early, you get to chair a lot of meetings. Don't misunderstand me. What I mean by that is you get to put the chairs out, and you get to arrange them. You get to put the literature out. You get to make the coffee just exactly like you want it. Yeah. But the great part about it is if you show up 30 minutes early, you'll be there when that newcomer walks in the door. And you can be one of the very first ones over there to greet them and welcome them. That's the thought part about showing up early. But I didn't have that kind of sponsorship then. See, I was still in the ism. The ism for me is ISM. I sponsored myself. The first 7 months I was here, I sponsored myself. Now, it's true. It's true. You've heard it said before. I had a fool for a sponsor. Let me tell you something else. I had a bigger fool for a pigeon. Is that what y'all call them up here? Pigeons? You know why they call them pigeons? Because all they do is eat all your food and crap all over you. But did you know that properly trained, a pigeon carries a message? Yeah. So anyhow, I had a bigger food for a pigeon. And this committee we got up here, everybody's got one. Okay? Sometimes my committee invites me, sometimes they don't. But we'd be riding down the road and that committee could convene an Al-Anon meeting and I had my sponsor there and I had my pigeon there and we could just solve every problem there was riding down the highway. Of course, we was sick. We wasn't getting no better. That's what you call spreading the mess instead of the message. We was good at that. But I had not been told to show up 30 minutes early. So when I walked over that door that night, it was 3 minutes to 8 for an 8 o'clock meeting. And I stopped there at the door and I took a quick head count, 23 women. Yep, one other guy. And he was sitting right down front. So I hustled down front and got the seat right beside him just as they started opening the meeting. And we had the meeting and then they closed it and then the guy turned around and introduced himself to me. I looked at him, I said, "Kervin, I'm glad there's at least one other guy here." He started laughing. He said, "Bo, I'm moving to Panama City Beach, Florida in the morning." So this is my last meeting here. And see, almost 29 years later, looking back, I realized that was just God taking care of Bo. And I'd have told you that God didn't know where I lived. But see, I was so sick that it took all 23 of those women for me. And God got Kervin out of town. If Kervin had been there and had a problem, I don't know what we'd have done. But he ain't come back either. And he's still down there. And so I had all them women there for me, you know. So after he introduced himself to me and told me that, well, then there's another woman come up there, and she introduced herself, and I stuck out my hand. She pushed my hand aside, and she didn't want to shake my hand. See, she wanted to give me a hug. See, well, I belong to one of the huggingest groups on the face of this earth. But I wasn't real huggable when I got here, okay? I believe today in the healing power of hugs. I really do. But I didn't know anything about that at the time. So I just shoved her away. Well, then the second lady came up, and she introduced herself, and I stuck out my hand, and she pushed my hand away. And When the third one came up, I said, hold on. Maybe we better just have a little understanding here. Now, I'm not going to be coming in here very much. I really don't need this. I'm sure that some of you gals have really gotten some good out of this. But you see, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have a problem. My wife out there in the other room has a problem, and the only reason I'm in here tonight is because they wouldn't let me stay out there. And so one of those, I'm trying to quit calling them old-timers. One of those seasoned veterans came over to me. And she said, Bo, come here. And we went back there by the door, and she got one of those chairs and took it back there, and she set it down right inside the door. She said, we want you to come in here every time that you can, or every time that you might want to. But this is as far in this room as you have to come. You don't have to come down here and sit in this circle if you don't want to. This is Bo's chair. Okay? And this is old-time stuff, see? Old-time stuff. And she said, if you come in here and there's somebody in your chair, come get me. Now, I didn't know the anger showed that much, but she said, don't you try to move them. Come get me. And then they did something that they still won't admit to today, but I figured it out. They assigned one of them gals to me. Now, she changed on a monthly basis because we're an old-time group and we believe in rotation. So, now, let me tell you what her job was. And in order to tell you what her job was, I have to tell you how we close our meetings at my home group, then and now. We stand and we hold hands and we say the Lord's Prayer. Now, we've not found it necessary to have any group conscience meetings about changing that. We don't plan to change it. From as long as we're there, we're going to hold hands and close with the Lord's Prayer. Now, being sponsored by old-timers, I've been taught that the Lord's Prayer ends with the word amen. So consequently, I'm not allowed to say anything after the word amen. See, Jim D. told me before he died, he said, Bo, bring me a copy of the Bible. That's where the Lord's Prayer is, and open it up in there and show me where it says, keep coming back. It works if you work it. He said, when you can show me that, then you might can say it during the meeting. But until that, Lord's Prayer ends with the word amen. We believe in following directions at our group down there and not getting away from them. So I'd go in there and I'd sit down in my chair inside the door, and I raised in that old Southern Baptist church. I love the Lord's Prayer. So when the meeting was over and they stood and held hands, I'd go down there and hold hands. And I'd say the Lord's Prayer. As soon as I let go, as soon as I said amen, I let go, buddy, and I was headed for the door. Well, ever who was assigned to me that month, her job was, while we had our eyes closed, she used to get out of the circle and get between me and the door. Because see, what they're doing is they're gently, very gently putting their hooks in me. They didn't tell me about it. They're putting their hooks in me and they're pulling me into this thing without ever letting me know. Well, see, her job was to give me a going home hug. See. Now, I'd hug one to get out of there. I wasn't going to hug 23. But I'd hug that one, and when she'd put her arms around my neck and she'd hug me, she'd whisper those words. And she'd say, now, you keep coming back, Bo, because we need you. Well, God, if you needed me, I mean, I wanted to help. What I didn't tell you was that I'd been listening to what you were saying. And I'd been reading your literature. And you see, my miracle was in the process of happening. And I didn't even know it. See? And it's through doing it, see, it wasn't too long till I was huggable. Huggable. Let me tell you about another hook they used to hold me there until my miracle could happen. It's a hook called laughter. I hope we don't ever forget the laughter in this way of life. You remember the laughter when you first got here? Not the kind that hurts your teeth, you know. Not that kind. I'm talking about real laughter. Real laughter. I began to hear real laughter for the very first time in a long, long time. That very first meeting that I was at that night, it was a speaker meeting full of laughter. And one of our seasoned veterans was telling her story that night. And we got the meeting open that night, and they introduced her, and she went to the front of the room. She said, hi, my name's Doris, and it's been 14 years since I had to plan a murder. Yeah, the whole room erupted in laughter. Everybody except me. My God, I didn't laugh. I was sitting down there on that front row beside Curvin, and in my mind I said, I can't believe she said that out loud. Because, see, I've been planning that murder too, just like she had, just like a bunch of you had. I was going to kill her and tell God she died. But y'all got here first. See, y'all got here first. Before that meeting was over that night, Darcy's talk was full of laughter. And I realized that nobody was laughing at her, but everybody was laughing with her. What a treat to find there. What a treat to find. I want to tell you one more thing about laughter. I have a God today that loves me so much that not only does he perform miracles in my life, he gives me an open heart and open ears and an open mind where I can see miracles as they're happening all about me today. And I used to miss them. They were always happening. I just missed them. I want to tell you about a miracle that I look for all the time, and hopefully you can start looking for it too. It's the miracle of laughter. You see, you sit there in that meeting and that newcomer comes in. They're not laughing. They're frowning because they're full of fear and they're full of guilt, and they're full of shame and heartache. They hadn't got anything to laugh about. And they sit down, and our job at that point is to very gently, treat them very gently, very gently put our hooks in them. Don't tell them. Just very gently begin to pull them into this thing. Give them something to come back for. Give them something to come back for. So then they come back to 2 or 3 meetings, and you see the newcomer, and he or she comes in one night, and they're not frowning anymore. Now, they're not smiling, but they're not frowning. You see, and at that point, I say, thank you, God, because I'm seeing the miracle happen. I'm seeing it take place. See? And then 3 or 4 more weeks, maybe a couple of months later, she comes in, sits down, somebody says something funny, and she shows her teeth. And she laughs. And I said, thank you, God, one more time for showing me one more miracle. Don't miss the miracle. Let's be there. Let's be part of it. That's how important I believe laughter is in our way of life. One more hook that they use, and then we'll move on. And it's turned out to be the most important thing in my life today. And it's a hook called unconditional love. You see, those gals started covering me up with unconditional love that very first night, and I had no concept at all of what it was about. I knew that something was different because they never asked me for anything. As I continued to go back to those meetings, every time I would show up, they would meet me and they would say, can we help you? Do you need anything? Can I do something for you? And they never asked anything in return. And that wasn't the way I'd been living my life, see. I'd been living that life of, I do something for you, then you owe me one. We all had been living that kind of life. And then we get here and it's different. And then one night I showed up and the topic of the meeting was unconditional love. Oh, now I had a name for it. Yeah. And so I immediately, after I identified it that way, I immediately appointed myself as the king of sopping up unconditional love in the southeastern United States. Yep. I was to be the best. And of course, being a good Al-Anon, the very next thought in my mind was, well, if you're so good at sopping it up, how good are you at giving it away? And so then the next deal was, well, you got to learn what it's all about so you can be the best there is at giving it away. So I set out trying to learn all I could about unconditional love. I was traveling all around, going to a lot of conventions and stuff, and I'd seek out that old seasoned veteran, and I'd just worry him to death, asking them questions. They like that. They won't tell you that, but they like it. See, these people walk around here with 40 and 50 and 58 years of recovery. Yeah. See, they're full of wisdom that we need. Yeah. But they're not going to force it on us. We got to ask them for it. So when you're around these seasoned veterans, wear them out. Ask questions. So I began to do that, but I wasn't learning a whole lot more than what I already knew about unconditional love. And then one spring, I was invited to speak at the spring convention in San Diego, and I was out there, and it was Friday night, and there's a guy, an AA guy. He's gone on now. It's Clint Hodges, and he was a Friday night speaker, and Clint set me free on unconditional love. But see, he didn't call it unconditional love. What Clint called it was his relationship with God. And here's what he said. He said, my relationship with God is the most important thing in my life today. And he said, because I call my relationship with God the vertical. And he said, and I call my relationship with you the horizontal. And what I've learned is as long as I'm okay vertically, I'm okay horizontally. When I'm okay with God, when I'm spiritually fit, when I'm okay with God, I'm okay with you. Consequently, today, when I begin to have problems with you, I don't come to you and I don't confront you. I go to my sponsor. And we talk and we read and we pray, and I get back to where I'm spiritually fit and that I'm in tune with God one more time. And when I'm back to where I'm spiritually fit, all of a sudden the problems that I was having with you just aren't that bad anymore. Just aren't that bad. So Clint says, what I do each morning when I get up, he says, is I have that meeting with God, and I invite God into my life, and then I spend the rest of the day trying to be the best child of God that I can be on a daily basis. And he said, when I'm spiritually fit and I'm the best child of God that I can be, then God uses me as a channel of his love, and God loves you through me. Now, you go to work on your relationship with God, and you become spiritually fit so that you can be the best child of God that you can be. And then God will use you as a channel of his love, and God will love me through you. And then right before he got off of that, he said, oh, by the way, God's love is unconditional. So there old BoT was one more time. See, the light bulb went on, running around the country looking for the wrong answer to the wrong question. See? All I got to do, I don't have to try to be the best there is at giving away unconditional love. I just have to be the best child of God that I can be today. And then God will use me as a channel of his love, and that love will be unconditional. It will be unconditional. So these are the hooks, you see, that those gals used to keep me here until my marriage. It took 7 months for me to realize that I was going to have to get into a program of action. The next thing that I do in order to tell you I'm an Al-Anon is I'm sponsored. The hardest thing I've had to do in almost 29 years in this program is replace my sponsors. We only had to do it one time. When I got Jim and Fran, I had the best of AA and the best of Al-Anon. And what mentors, what guides they were. I'm telling you, and I'll tell you in a little bit about the changeover. But the last thing I do today is I take those 12 simple steps that we read. 12 simple steps for a very complicated person. And to the best of my ability, I incorporate them in my life on a daily basis. Getting up each morning, inviting God into my life, and then turning it over to God for the day. Is your day becoming too complicated? Is it becoming too hectic out there? Give it to God. Now, you got to worry about what time you want to do the vacuuming, or do you want to cut grass today, or, big decisions. Big decisions. I tell you, it works for me. It works for me. So these are when I introduce myself to you as an Al-Anon. These are the kind of things I do in my life today. Now, we don't have a whole lot of time to go back into how it was. So what I'm going to do is I want to start right here with September 4th, 1982, and that was Saturday of Labor Day weekend. And they discharged Shirley from that treatment center at 12 noon on Saturday of Labor Day weekend. And so me and two kids picked her up there, and we had instructions. This treatment center is about 40 miles out of Birmingham. We had instructions to go straight to the Bessemer group of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I had an aunt and uncle in that group. They're both gone on now. Aunt Katie got sober Valentine's Day of 62. And Uncle James got sober in November of 62. So they were there waiting on us. They were members of the Bessemer group. And But we were not allowed to go by the house because they knew if they let us go by the house, that's where we'd stay. So we had to go straight to the Bessemer group and meet up with a bunch of y'all that was forming a convoy to go 50 more miles down the road to Tuscaloosa to that meeting I told you about. Any of you ever convoyed any meetings? Oh, man, we don't do that anymore. That used to be more fun. Let me tell you about that convoy that day. And all I can tell you is it grows as it goes. I'm up now to where there's about 85 vehicles in that convoy. There was 2 doors, there was 4 doors, there was pickup trucks with and without camper shells. There was a wrecker, there was motorcycle, there was a taxi cab, there was every kind of vehicle that you can imagine. Every one of them was a drunk vehicle. By that I mean there wasn't a straight piece of sheet metal nowhere. And not a one of them had an air conditioner that worked. And it's Labor Day weekend. It's hot and it's humid in Alabama. And we had enough people for 125 vehicles. And we get to pushing and shoving, and everybody's just laughing and cutting up, and then off we go to Tuscaloosa. And we get down there and we unload, and we walk into this big meeting room on the campus of the university down there. And there was somewhere between 650 and 750 of y'all. Yeah. And you was cleaned up. You was dressed up. You had on foo-foo juice. You was running around that place laughing and having the time of your life. And that thing about attraction rather than promotion. See, me and Shirley and 2 kids fell in love with y'all that night. We didn't know a whole lot about you. We didn't know what you had. We just knew that whatever it was infinitely better than what we brought to the table. We went back home at night. We got home about midnight. Shirley's first night home in 38 nights. The kids had her a 2-pound bag of chocolate chip cookies because she couldn't have that up there at treatment. We had a gallon of milk. And we sat down in the den floor and we talked about y'all and what we had seen down there. And we talked about you till the sun came up. Now, I'm going to tell you how we knew that we talked about you till the sun came up. Because, by golly, we saw the sun come up. And what's important about that is we couldn't have seen the sun come up if the curtains weren't open. See, we opened them curtains that had been shut for so long. We opened them up and they ain't been shut since then. That front door's open. Yeah. And we made a conscious commitment as a family to give this thing our best shot. And that commitment so far has led to me being right here with you in St. Louis today. Now, Aunt Katie was waiting on Shirley. She had 20 years of sobriety at that time. And she met Shirley with a big book. And she got Shirley into that book. And she got her into those steps. And my wife began to grow spiritually and she began to get well. Yeah. We asked the kids to go to 4 Al-Ateen meetings, 1 a week for 4 weeks. Mike went to his 4. He was 15 at that time, and he said, it ain't for me. It's just not for me. Well, he had a motorcycle. He had some other things to do. It's called chasing. And he's good at it, too. He did his share of catching. Sissy was 13, and she went and she had found her home. You could not drag her away from Al-Ateen. She stayed in Al-Ateen till she was 20 years old, came into Al-Anon, and so she's 42 years old now. All those years of Al-Ateen and Al-Anon. And I wasn't doing anything. I was sitting there just occupying a chair, taking up your space and doing nothing because there wasn't nothing wrong with me. And it took 7 months of my family getting better than me for me to hit my bottom. And I remember it. It was a Saturday morning. Raining. Golly, it was raining. And I was supposed to play golf. And I was sitting in the den. And my prayer or my communication with God that morning was, what's the deal? I'm going to the meetings. I'm making sure Shirley gets to her meetings. I'm working hard. I'm supporting the family. Come on, God, I just want to play a round of golf. Can't it rain on Wednesday? Good gracious alive. And about that time, Shirley walked through the den. And I think she said, good morning. I'm not even sure. All I know is that the rage exploded. And she just stood there. And when I was calmed down, she said, well, Bo, who you going to blame this one on, big boy? I ain't had a drink in 7 months. And I knew. I knew then that it was about me. It wasn't about her. So I went back to Bessemer, and I got Fran as my sponsor. Curvin was gone, no men. But Fran, you see, was old enough to be my mother. She's a retired school principal. She had a disciplinarian side to her that I didn't know about, that I was to learn about. And then Fran made that deal with me that as long as I was going to make a commitment to get in the steps, then she would take me by the hand. And we started that walk. About 90 days later, I needed to talk to a man, and she sent me out in the AA room, said, find one that's working a good 12-step program. And I happened to pick the one she'd been married to forever, and Jim and Fran. And I had the best of AA and the best of Al-Anon. And I'm off and I'm going. Well, I decided I'd do an inventory. And I didn't tell them about it. Couldn't get it done. Just wouldn't work. I didn't know how to do it. We didn't know what I was doing. Okay. So I picked up the phone and I called Fran. And when I finally settled down, she said, this sounds like a 5:30 deal. Well, 5:30 deal meant I had to be at their house at 5:30 because that's when Jim got home from work. And there would be a pot of coffee made, and me and Fran would be sitting at the kitchen table at 5:30 with a cup of coffee when he came in the door. She said, 5:30. I said, yes, ma'am. And I was there. 5:30, Jim walked in the door. What's the problem? I told him. Before I could say another word, Fran looked at me and she said, Bo, if you're trying to do an inventory, honey, you got to be in trouble. She said, I said, Fran, where do you get this wisdom? 30 seconds ago, you didn't know anything about it. She said, well, son, if you're trying to do the 4th step, you're in trouble because you ain't through with the 3rd step. She said, and I keep telling you over and over again, these steps are numbered for people just like you. And she said, until you do something about this judging and punishing God that you have, then you're not going to be able to go much further. Jim just reached over and took me by the hand. We walked down the hall in his house to his office, sat down at his desk, and he reached around there and pulled a book around between us, and it was the textbook, Alcoholics Anonymous. And he opened up that book to the chapter to the agnostic, and he took this Al-Anon into that chapter in that book that afternoon. And it was right there on the pages of the textbook that I found the God that I have in my life today. And it's a God of infinite power and of infinite love. You know what infinite is? Never ending, inexhaustible power and love. Available to me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what I know today is that the God I have in my life today is so busy loving me and forgiving me that he wouldn't have time to judge me and punish me if he wanted to. So I've got this new concept of God, and I said, well, I'm off and running now, and I was. Running just as hard away from God as I could go. Because see, in that Southern Baptist church, when you turned it over to God, you became a song director or a Sunday school director or worse than that, a missionary. Yeah. And God just let me run. He loves me enough. See, God has never taken away my free will. I have to give it to him. And he'll allow me to reach over and take it back whenever I want to and get just as sick and miserable as I want to get. But he's always right there, closer than my next breath when I finally say, God, I can't stand this anymore. Always there for me. So I'm off and running, and I'm getting more and more miserable. And I got up one Wednesday morning, and I looked at Shirley, and I said, I ain't going to work. She said, okay, stay home. She said, what's your problem? And I said, I'm miserable with me, and I don't know how to fix that. I finally decided I would go to work because I could be miserable there and get paid. But I couldn't even make it to work that morning. Couldn't even make it to work. 5 minutes to 8, I pulled my truck out of traffic there in Bessemer, Alabama, and I hollered at God. And I did what I know today was my version of the third step prayer. Because what I said was, God, I don't know what I got. I don't know where we got to go, and I don't know what we got to do. But whatever it is, God, let's go. I can't fight you anymore. And I surrendered. I surrendered. As I look back today, I realize that what I did that morning is I fired Bo as the general manager of Bo's Life. And I looked around and hired the best general manager available, and that's God. And my biggest job since that morning to right here with you today, the biggest job I have in my life is keeping Bo fired and God hired. And as long as I can keep it that way, we stay between the ditches. Now, I'm running out of time, so we're just going to fast forward here into some things that have happened since that day in my life, because you see, spiritual growth began to come then. And I began to catch up with my family, who were way ahead of me. And we had a vacation planned for June of 1988. First time that me and Shirley and Mike and Sissy, and Mike was 20 by this time, Sissy was 18, and we were going to take a vacation together. Sissy had just finished her first year in college. Mike, he never wanted to go to college. He told Sissy, he said, Sissy, I got the looks and you got the books. And but he had a real good job. He was 20 years old and he still lived at home. And this was a week before we were going on our vacation. And that's when we opened the door at midnight and 3 policemen told us that Mike had been killed instantly by a drunk driver. And there went the wind out of our sails, you see. Now, I share this with you today for 2 reasons. Number one, because Mike's part of our life. But number 2, I share it with you because I want you to know the part that you played in this. Because, see, I never had a thought to call my brother or my sister. I went to the phone and called Jim and Fran. First phone call I made. And I remember Fran telling me, put the phone down. I said, I don't want to hang the phone up. And she said, son, I can't come to you while I'm talking to you on the phone. See, it's 12 steps up here. It's 12 steps on a wall. You open a book, it's 12 steps on a page. 12 steps in action is something to behold. Because I want to share something with you. When we gather together, people like us, when we gather together, we create a spiritual power that my simple mind is not capable of comprehending. I tell you, it's here this weekend. I've been feeling it. I hope you have. God's here. God is here. You see, God's always with us. Because of Mike's death, or through Mike's death, Shirley and Sissy and I have been privileged to experience that power. Because, see, within 45 minutes of us getting the news of Mike's death, AA and Al-Anon was in our home. And you came in and you stayed. You didn't go back home. You came in, you said, we don't know, we can't answer this, we can't explain it. We're here because we got open arms and we got big hearts and soft shoulders, and we want to love you through this thing. And you're still doing it. You're still doing it. Just a week and a half ago was 23 years. 23 years. Seems like it hadn't been 23 days sometime. Because you see, we still miss that boy. We still miss him. But you see, neither me nor Shirley nor Sissy could have walked through this thing. But us with y'all, we've been able to walk through this thing. See, I've walked through the deepest, darkest valley that a daddy will ever have to walk through. Oh, something might happen to Sissy and it'd be just as deep and just as dark, but it wouldn't be any deeper or any darker. So I've already walked through the deepest, darkest valley that a daddy will ever have to walk through. The good news that I'm here to share with you today is that I've never taken one step of that walk alone. You see, not one step. I couldn't. I was incapable. But all the way through the walk, you had this hand. God had this hand. I had the power. I had the power. That's the reason I'm still coming back today. That's the reason I'm still going to these things. That's the reason I'm still a real regular member, because this is where the power is. I know today, I don't believe this, I don't think this, I know this. There's absolutely nothing that thing out there called the world can throw at me that I can't walk through, as long as I'm here and you got this hand and God's got this hand. Because when you got this hand and God's got this hand, BoT's got the power. BoT's got the power. So we were able to walk through that thing. We didn't enjoy it. We still don't enjoy it today. You know, the thing about time heals all wounds? No, it don't. No, it don't. Had an Al-Ateen set me free about this, though. Al-Ateen. Yeah. He said, he heard me talk, and he said, Mr. Bo, I heard a lot of pain when you were talking about Mike. He said, 4 years ago, my little brother drowned in the swimming pool in the backyard. He said, I want to share with you what somebody shared with me. Okay. He said, the pain is inevitable. You don't ever want to lose the pain, because when you remember him, there's going to be pain. Okay. He said, the pain's inevitable, but the misery is optional. Al-Ateen. Al-Ateen. So he taught me how to handle that. Yeah. So then Sissy, a couple of years later, Sissy gets married. He didn't come into her life on the great white steed. He came into her life on the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Shirley and I sold the big house there in Hueytown, didn't need it anymore. In 1997, we went to the woods. We got 2 acres. We're land barons. 2 acres out there in the middle of the woods. We called it Serenity Hill, because if you show up on a good day, when things are going pretty good, you might find a little serenity out there. 2007, Sissy's husband, Bob, great member of Alcoholics Anonymous, sponsored guys, heck, kept them in the book, worked those steps, took on newcomers, great member of Alcoholics Anonymous, 50 years old, and he died of a massive heart attack. Died on Thursday afternoon. Bessemer's AA and Al-Anon anniversary was Saturday. You know where Sissy was Saturday, and you know where Bo and Shirley were Saturday? Right where we were supposed to be. We were with you. With you. Yeah. And then we buried him on Monday. We put ourselves, see, we've learned that when something happens, we run to. We don't run from. We run to. So, 2002, I had to have back surgery. I had to have a fusion done in my lower spine. I had to go on disability. And so after I got over the operation and I had to go on disability, sitting there at the house one day, and I didn't have anything to do. And it dawned on me, I need to talk to God about that. So I talked to God about it, and I said, you know, God, for years I've been running around doing your work the best I could, and you took care of the schedule because I still had a job. I said, I'm reporting back in. This is Bo, and I don't have a job. I'm now available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All I can tell you is don't make that deal unless you're ready to get busy. You will get busy. So that's what I've been doing since then. I've been running around all over trying to share God's message. And I think back to all that time that I didn't want to get involved in the church because they might make me a missionary. What do missionaries do? Yeah. So I'm out of time. I just got to cut this off. Life is good today. Life is good. Serenity Hill is okay out there. Spook's taking care of Serenity Hill. She don't allow anybody on there that's not supposed to be there. However, if she decides to let you on, she will lick you to death trying to love you. She's a love machine. So I want to close this talk today by making a deal with y'all. And I've made this deal with some people in this room, so I know the deal works. You see, I'm one of those Al-Anons that's never seen the burning bush, and I've never experienced the cool breeze or the flash of light. But the God I have in my life today speaks to me more often today than he has ever spoken to me in my life. And when God speaks to me today, darned if it doesn't look and sound a whole lot like you. That's how important you are to me in my recovery. So here's the deal. I'm going to keep coming back. Rooms like this full of folks like you. Now, you're part of the deal. I want you to keep coming back. Rooms like this full of folks like us. If I keep coming back and you keep coming back, then somewhere one day down the road, our paths will cross again as we trudge this road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thank you so much for having me.